Thank you. Hello. So yeah, I've come down. I know a few of the guys that organised the meet-up here. Oh, cheers. So they invited me down to give a little talk and sort of explain what I know from behind the scenes in recruitment in Sydney. I've been here for 3 years from the UK originally, from Manchester, and specialising in that time in the front-end space and also heading up the development recruitment space as well. So I brought along my colleague Larissa, who's over there in the hiding behind the corner. So I wanted to do just a little bit of a short, few minutes run through to try and help people in terms of how to prepare for an interview, what sort of behind the scenes the clients look for, and then obviously I can answer any questions about technologies that are trending and sort of how that equates to client demand and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's myself and Larissa from 2XM Technology. We basically cover any roles from CTO, right down to graduate positions across development, infrastructure, security, all areas of IT and technology. And I guess it's more about preparation for each interview. I'm sure everyone's had lots of interviews over the years, but if you can have a little bit of knowledge in terms of what interviewers are looking for in particular, it's quite simple, and sort of how best to answer some of the questions that they might throw at you in that time. So the key things that they're looking for is, can you do the job? And that's mainly around the technical aspects of the role, is how they'll assess you technically. Every client does it differently. Some do take-home tests, some will do whiteboard sessions, are quite popular now with the team. Other companies will just sort of do verbal technical conversations in the interview to test if you're suitable for that role. Will you fit in with the team? The team culture is obviously a big one. Australia is sort of renowned for its work-life balance, so they're looking for people who can fit in with a good culture within the company, but also contribute to the team and the environment that they're in. And also, will you stay? So, if they're investing in someone, they want to make sure that that person's invested in the company and they want to stay there. No job's permanent. There's no roles forever. But if they can obviously assess that you're going to stay there for, I think the average is about 14 months at the minute, actually, so in Sydney. So it's not too long in the development world. But that's one of the things they'll assess. To assess these, they won't just sort of ask you these 3 questions. They're going to obviously spend some time running through a series of questions with you to find that out. One of the main things you probably see when you jump in an interview is they'll either start by asking you questions about your experience and your background and your CV, or they'll say, okay, run us through your CV, tell us about you, and obviously you've got to sort of tell your life story from there. So there's a few sort of key ways to make sure that you just stick to the points, don't spend too much time talking about it, which is by limiting the information. So giving some key achievements and key points as to what you've achieved in that role, and then why you moved on from that role to the next one, summarising key points for that role as well, and why you moved on to the next one, and so on and so forth. And there's no, as long as you've got strong reasons for moving to another position, you wanted to get into a different field, use a different technology stack, move countries, whatever it might be, that's absolutely fine, just as long as you can give a good summary of that. They should be satisfied with that response, and they can ask you questions following on from that, but it just puts you in a lot more control of the interview as they're asking questions directly about the knowledge you have. So the CV talk through, know the reasons for why you've moved, know your CV inside out, know the projects that you've worked on in those roles inside out, and they will dive quite deeply into that. And as long as you can answer that confidently, then that will be enough to get you through. Have a practice. So look at sort of preparing, maybe doing a little bit of role play, run through in how you would do that, so that when you walk into the interview, you're feeling confident. There can be obviously awkward interviews depending on the interviewer, but making sure you're confident walking in, and that's the way to sort of nail that one. So one of the things that they're testing for, as we covered, is will you stay at the company? And as I said, no job is forever, but they'll ask you motive-based questions to assess that. They'll want to know what will motivate you to work hard and put some good work into that company and stay there for a good amount of time. So they'll ask you things about why you're interested in that position, obviously researching the role, the company, and that's going to be, for a lot of people that I speak to, it's technology is a big one for why people move on. A lot of people want to have more involvement in the sort of day-to-day rather than just going in and maybe doing a little bit of code or doing one vertical in a role. So that's one of the questions they'll ask. Why are you interested in the company? It might be a specific field. You might like fintech. You might like AI is obviously a big one at the minute. Whatever it might be, knowing why that company is of interest to you. And this is just one. If you are going from a contract to a permanent, is they'll want to know, or freelance, they'll want to know, why you're making that move, taking a little bit of a cut in money in exchange for, progression and some other training. And what are your career aspirations? So where do you want to be in, 1 year, 5 years, whatever they want to go through. If you're having a clear goal and a vision on what you want to do. So just reinforcing that, stick to what interests you in the role, talking about that, what interests you about that opportunity and where it's going to take you in your careers, and what interests you about that particular working environment, whether that be agile or whatever you want to be working in. And also with your motives, obviously it is about yourself and assessing if that's the right opportunity and company for you. But what we want to do is make sure that you get an offer on the table whilst you're getting that information, and then you can come away and make a decision if that's right. So making some of your motives that you talk about align to the vision of the company that you're interviewing with as well. And again, stating strong motives for taking less money versus career progression and development if you're going from a contract to a permanent role. Big one for me is asking questions. So at the end of the interview, it's a good way for you to get all of the information that you need to assess if that is the right opportunity and company for you. But also it sends a strong message to the employer that you've got good interpersonal skills, good commercial acumen, and you can use those questions to maybe sort of enforce positives in the interview. And also it demonstrates an enthusiasm about the role. If you're asking questions, how big's the team? How does this role fit into the team? What's the technology stack? What's the plans for the next 12 months in terms of growth? Then it shows that you genuinely are interested in that opportunity and that company. Again, some examples. So team structure, where does this role fit into the team? What do employees say about what it's like to work here? What are the prospects for career progression? Examples of success stories for people that have joined in the same position. What are the main challenges in the role? How does the company support staff development? And what are the people like in the team that you'd be working with? Cool. Always an awkward one, if obviously you get through the interview and people start talking about money, you've had a great conversation, good technical discussion with people, you're feeling good about the opportunity, they're feeling good about yourself, and it gets to money, which always can be awkward. So just understanding what drives the rates of the market, obviously in terms of the current market and the state of it, your level and seniority, the discipline and skill set, whether you do React.js or Vue.js, or what the latest trend is that's got value in the market, and the location. So obviously in Sydney, they're paying more than if you were living in Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane, but obviously the rent's a lot higher. So the easiest way I've always found to answer this question is to answer it exactly like that. The most important thing is securing the right opportunity at the right company long term. That said, it's important that you work for a company that fairly rewards you for the level that you're at and the job that you're doing. And as advised by the market or by a recruiter, you've been advised that your current market rate is within a range. So let's just say 100 to 110,000 plus super. Know your market rate, give a range, and then that doesn't price you out of the opportunity if you're competing with other candidates, but also gives a good range and a good point to start that negotiation. A lot of current opportunities within 2XM technology, across data and professional services, infrastructure, development and security. And obviously I can happy to talk to anyone, you know, in the bar after this about any opportunities that we've got available that you might be interested in. A lot of companies that we work with can sponsor, some can't, and again, happy to run through which ones can and can't with anyone who's new to Australia as well. And yeah, any questions?
So Jonathan will still be available.
Yeah, I'll be in the bar having a beer if anyone wants to go and have a conversation.
Thank you, Jonathan.
No worries, thanks for having me. Cheers.
Fantastic.